Hey there, what is up guys? My name is Amir and welcome back to my YouTube channel. In this video, I'll be talking about three things. One of them is what are data factory triggers, the different types of data factory triggers, and we'll be also creating a trigger for the existing pipeline that we created in our earlier video. So what are data factory triggers? The data factory triggers are used for automating a pipeline execution. Another way you can just say that you use trigger to automatically execute pipelines, and these triggers can also be used for creating the dependency between a pipeline. The documentation from Microsoft has to say that triggers, it represents the unit of processing, and that helps you in determining when a pipeline execution needs to be kicked off. And there's one more thing that is important for you to know, that you can have one single trigger that can kick off multiple pipelines, or multiple triggers can be associated with one pipeline and that can execute just one single pipeline. The next thing is type of triggers. So there are three triggers that are supported as of now. The first one is schedule trigger. When you speak about schedule trigger, it works on a wall clock schedule. So if you want to schedule a data factory pipeline using a schedule trigger, all you have to do is select the schedule trigger option, and what this trigger will do is it will execute the pipeline based on the time that you have set. And you can also set the frequency one if you want to execute that pipeline. Next one is a tumbling window trigger. This is really important, and this type of trigger is something which is used more often than schedule, at least in my case. And how this works is it works more of on a periodic interval. So I can see the difference right over here. Tumbling window is working on a periodic interval and the schedule one is working on a wall clock basis. What are the benefits of tumbling window? One of the biggest benefit is that it happens to also retain the state of the pipeline. If a pipeline that has failed, you can just go back and rerun the pipeline and it will still hold the parameters and it will execute the pipeline using that parameters. The third one is event-based triggers. So event-based triggers respond to an event. An example of this is if you place a CSV file into a blob storage, the event-based trigger will trigger the data factory pipeline. Let's head back to a portal and create a simple schedule trigger for our data factory pipeline. So here we are in our data factory, and if you can see, it's the same pipeline that we created in the last time. What this pipeline does, it copies the employee CSV file from the input folder into the output folder within the same storage account. There are two ways on how you can create the trigger. One of them is right from here. That's the easiest and the best way to do so. And the other way is to go into this manage tab over here, and then under author, click on triggers. And then within this, you have a create trigger option. So what I'll do is I will continue creating a trigger from this location. I will name it as copy emp every minute. So I'll be creating this trigger to execute every minute, and you have another option over here to add the description. So you can have a little bit more details on what's the purpose and what's the goal of this trigger and how many pipelines you're trying to execute. That's a good practice. And then you have the type. So you have three different types that we already discussed, and this is something which is new, which is the custom events. And I'll be talking about all of them in maybe another video, but as of now, let's just stick to schedule trigger. The next thing is the start date. So you can assign the start date if you want. I'll keep it as it is right now. We'll be talking again about more in detail in upcoming videos. Keeping the time zone in the UTC is kind of a standard approach, something you should follow. And then this next option is to define what the frequency of this trigger will be. So if I set this to every 1 minute as per our use case, and I will also specify an end date. So with the help of this end date, you can specify when the trigger should start and when the trigger should end. Let's specify our end date to 44. So it will be executing for the next 10 minutes, and based on the amount of time left, that will be the number of times this trigger will execute the data factory pipeline. Once you have selected the end on date and time, you can just click on start trigger on creation and click on OK. Now, if you create this trigger and you try to publish it, it will fail. The reason for that is because you have not associated this to a data factory pipeline. So what you can do is you can just go back to your author page. In the data factory pipeline, just click on add trigger, click on new, and select the trigger right from here. You can see all your configurations are there as it is, and just click on OK. Once you click on OK, you can only start running the trigger once it is published. You have to make sure that the trigger is published to make sure that it's executing. It will take a few seconds to deploy these changes. Once these changes are deployed successfully, which is, you can see as it's done now, you can go to monitor and it will take few seconds. So this pipeline runs you can see are from my previous trigger that I had created for testing purpose. Now let's see, we should be seeing a new trigger over here, and you can also see this in the triggered runs. So these are again something which is which were triggered earlier, and the trigger type is scheduled and it was running on a every minute basis. Let's go back to pipeline run and see if anything is executing. There you can see a new pipeline run has been executed. It's in progress right now, and it is based on the trigger that we created. If I refresh this now, ideally it should be completed. So it took 7 seconds to run this, and the pipeline started at 2:38 and ended at 2:38:08. The next one will be at 2:39. So we have to maybe refresh this page again. Over here you can see the name of the pipeline, and if you refresh, it's not executed yet because we are still on 2:38. So once I refresh the page, you can see that there is another run. So basically it says that it's running every minute, and you can also see that the start time is 2:39. And if you go into the execution, you can see that the execution also has completed. If you click on this icon to see if it has copied the data, you can see that the data is copied and overwritten into the output folder. That's it from my side for this video. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you really like it, hit the like button, subscribe to my channel, and also hit the bell icon for notifications on my upcoming videos. And I'll talk to you guys in the next one.